Well, hello, and yeah, I'm out on the bike again to try and cover a little bit more ground. I just want to, well, basically, there are so many tracks. It would take more than my time here just to explore this local area. Right then, we've actually got some properties we're going to see next Tuesday, and something very alarming has just come straight to the fore. Some of the questions I posed about possibly the usages and time lengths and possibly how I'm envisaging what I'm proposing to do, I got answers which contradict everything I know and have read. And on top of that, uh, basically, I left the office, shall I say, extremely unnerved by what I was being told. That's just me personally. I'm not. This isn't any advice, or it's just my first impression of dealing with shall we say, properties in the manner I'm doing now. And yes, my radar is gone to full alert onto basically the property market here, and my eyes aren't just open. I've actually got my infrared vision trying to look behind the scenes and at things. So, what's my thoughts and what am I actually feeling? Well, people, particularly in the UK, will believe that they're possibly getting a slice of personal liberty and freedom, which is uninhibited. I've already covered that particular topic. Um, and I'm not going to labour on about that. But there's also that fact where, and it's slightly misleading, everything is cheap here. Everything is cheap. Unfortunately, in this week and how I've been living here, I can confirm a lot of things are cheaper than the UK. But I can also confirm a lot of things are comparable, if not dearer. So, it's a case of swings and roundabouts. Could you live here cheaper? You could, but you would have to downscale your expectations of what you're trying to do here, and you would have to downsize your buying and purchasing way you do things to try and achieve that. Now, wages here for the locals, and I've touched on this, are not extremely high as an average. Obviously, you do have higher paid jobs and lower paid jobs, but the average in general, it's a general consensus, they're slightly lower. So if you're coming here, you're unskilled and you think you're just going to pick up a reasonably well paid job, which is going to allow you to have a quality of life which is far superior than what a local person may be living or experiencing, you could be sadly mistaken, because if you're living here, from what I can see, you either need to have a form of income in place or the ability to earn enough to allow you to fulfill that dream which you're looking to fulfill. If you're looking to go totally off grid and do the hard 9 miles of being fully off grid and things like that, from what I can see, it's achievable. It is definitely. I mean, you've only got to scour the YouTube. You can see it's achievable. But there's a lot of hardship and sadness behind those particular stories as well, and it's not all just tipping up, handing cash, and you're off living off grid. A lot of people have found themselves at the wrong end of the systems and mechanisms in place here, which you know, are the local governance, because of misinformation or the idea that, as I've just said, there's a firm belief that you can do what you want. And sadly, this does actually happen. So who's actually here in central Portugal doing this, you know, off-grid or central adventure Portugal lifestyle adventure and relocation and changing lives? Who's on this big adventure? Well, it's truly international, and I've possibly tried with a great deal of amusement to myself and them to have conversations with possibly up to, basically, I'd say 8 to 10 different nationalities here. Now, like I say, it is truly international. The thing is, we did actually meet a couple from another European country that, due to non-conformity during the issues that have happened over the last 2 to 3 years, and you know, which resulted in them losing their employment, they hit the road. Now, you know, they did state that they're trying to find off-grid land and basically do the whole, you know, thing of the off-grid lifestyle. They didn't, you know, discuss their finances, and I'm, you know, perfectly okay with that, and you know, they're doing their own thing. But, you know, there did seem to be a huge movement of younger people who are in that process of coming here, following a dream. Well, it's going to be a hot one today, and boy, I'm feeling it. I've got a slight gradient to go up. That's not helping, but I'm enjoying this nevertheless. And the wife and kids will be now getting ready for the day. And I think more swimming is pretty much prescribed for conditions like this. So why is land relatively cheap in central Portugal? Because, you know, it is, and you know, that's not always a given. Obviously there's prime locations and prime properties which do command more money, but as a rule you can expect properties to be slightly cheaper, if not, you know, a fair bit cheaper than possibly home countries. Well, that is quite simply for one of those reasons I've already talked about. Wages are so low. The other thing is the sheer economics of this particular region. It was heavily dependent on the agricultural sector, and as we know, that's kind of dropped off significantly in the later years, although if you look into the future in the way they want to do farming, perhaps this could become, you know, the way forward, how they do it here. But ultimately, you know, there's no real big money around here. And indeed, back in the UK, I did actually work with younger members of the Portuguese society that had actually emigrated to find good paid jobs for like unskilled labour, which I was doing the job I was, and they were able to access that themselves due to the UK being in the EU. So it meant there was an exodus of people from this particular region. Now and I'm sure that's not the full economic picture, but you know, that's as far as I personally understand it from a broad sense. There's a lot of other things possibly at play there, but so when you come here and you're buying land and buying things cheap, it's not a free giveaway. There has been a lot of hardship on the part of the local population, and they've suffered due to those conditions I talked about, which obviously means things are cheaper here. But for that local individual here, for him to buy that piece of property and land, because he's on a lower income, that gap between what you may pay back home to what your wages are is not that significant. It's still that same level of disparity between, you know, being able to afford the land and properties. So you're not getting you know, a totally morally free piece of land or property which has no cost to the local population. There's always a cost to everything. So as I'm from Cornwall, and it's pretty well documented there, the same kind of situation, although this was in the, what I can remember, Cornwall slightly before it got to the stage it is now with the cost of properties. But my father-in-law, my parents, and parents before grandparents, they can remember Cornwall being in this similar position, being extremely rural, at the back end of the country, not highly desirable as an area to live, and then due to the economy and like with agricultural, fishing and mining gradually dropping away, it became more of a tourist hotspot and a place for people to retire, or people that have made money to come into the area to buy up property because it was relatively cheap, and set up that nice you know, dream lifestyle. And in similar regards, this is what is actually happening here. And you know, that may be a slightly bleak outcome. You might think I'm trying to, you know, sell or pitch, but ultimately this region does need money, and by people coming into it now, they're able to push money into the economy to also help the locals and everything like that. You know, it is all swings and roundabouts with life, and I'm not going to dress any of it up, but you know, it is where we are. And you know, just myself being here, and I've looked at the money I've spent in the local rural population here, you know, I've spent a significant amount of money already, just, you know, which I wouldn't do if I was living here, but I'm here also as a family to enjoy myself over this month. So obviously that does cost if you're doing things outside of a normal daily routine lifestyle that you would if you were living here. You might just see the mountains in the distance there, and I've just come up this track, which there was a hill just behind that rise, so that's made me have a bit of a workout, and I'm going to continue up here. Now, the Portuguese people have been extremely welcoming, friendly, hospitable, and indeed amused by my attempts to communicate. And yet again, I've already said, if you're going to be here for an extended period of time, it's courtesy, and indeed you will need some form of communication to get things done. And when I say get things done, or access the potential this region has to offer you, communication is possibly key, because it's a slightly different mindset than what I'm used to back home. So yes, you know, communication will help smooth things along. But yeah, I've got nothing but praise for the way we've been treated, and or indeed the hospitality given to us. The only thing that I'm confused about is Portugal is rumoured to be one of the safest in Europe. My confusion is everywhere there's guard dogs, there's signs stating that the security cameras, do not enter, private property, but which you can understand, but the amount of signage suggesting, you know, surveillance, you're being watched. It just leaves that underlying curious question: is there a hidden problem? You know, and I have read cases of you know, people going away and coming back to find like tools and bits and bobs missing from their properties. I don't know, I mean, it's just one of those questions I've got in the back of my head, because even in the UK, and I've always understood the UK to be one of the most big brothered countries, I'm just confused by all the signage stating, you know, security and CCTV and everything of that nature. But the actual figures, from what I understand, state Portugal is a safe country and it has a low crime rate. Well, I've just hit a hard standing road after leaving this trackway, and I'm gonna have to actually check mappage to find out exactly where I am. I've been cycling for quite a while now. And I've not seen a car in a long time either. This is a hard standing road and I can see housing down here. I might just pedal down there and just have a little look-see. Well, I've gone some distance and I think the mountains are actually getting a little bit closer, so I'm going to turn tail and head home before the sun really does come in, and get some refreshments. Incidentally, I've just been cycling through some of the biggest olive plantations or groves that I've actually seen so far since I've been here. They're absolutely huge and they just stretch to the distance. Just olive trees everywhere, right up into the town. A lot of these villages all have the same format. I've just seen a big church on the top of the hill, and yeah, it's easily to get lost in all the little roads and lanes and little pathways that subdivide the villages and that. But it's quite quaint, and yeah, it's nice. And everybody I've seen as I've been cycling past has been waving, smiling, saying bon dias, bon dia, and you know, you remark the same. You see the little smile on their face as they realise that you know, you're not local and you're trying your best. But yeah, really enjoying this. Well, I'm just taking a rest beside one of these granite boulders, and I'm on a different trail, and I have no idea where this one's going to. I can see a little town in the distance, and it's one, or a little village, and it's pretty close to the one I'm staying at, but it's in a completely different direction. I'll quickly show you. It's just poking its nose out over a hill, you know, it's in full eyesight, and I've just walked past a track which is looking like it's going in that direction. I think I may have made a bad choice there because it's already hot, and perhaps I should have hit that town, had a look about and then come back. This one here, I can't see where it's going to. It is pretty much like you know, a couple of the others I've done where you just look like you're walking for miles and miles and miles, you know, along fire tracks and trackways. But in any case, I'm on it, so I'll give it a quick little try. So as I get up off this boulder and perhaps get a slightly better angle on it, you can actually see the white buildings and red roofs of the town in the distance. It's only about a mile and a half at the outmost. This is the trackway I'm going up, and it looks pretty much similar to a lot of others you may have seen on my videos. But like I said, I'm in this area, so I'm going to utilise what I have available. And I think I've touched on the fact motoring isn't possibly as cheap as you may first think here in central Portugal, or Portugal indeed itself. Something my wife actually remarked to me, which I never gave a second thought, even though I am a parent myself, and that was the lack of children, or very young children you see, you know, out and about, possibly riding bikes, playing and doing things. I've touched on the fact that my children are really suffering in this heat. They're pretty lethargic, they don't want to walk anywhere, do anything, and that's understandable. You know, it's the same for us adults. It does throw up, you know, those questions for us. Myself, I may be carrying a little bit of weight and not look the most energetic of guys, but I am, you know, one of those people that is on the go all the time and through the more productive hours of the day. Now, you know, that's obviously something that, you know, has made us have a little discussion last night. You know, our kids do seem to be suffering a little bit because they're still used to, you know, our Cornish lifestyle, which is, you know, between the hours of 9 and 5, you really are on the go. I know you have the cooler periods first thing in the morning and last thing at night, but once those cooler periods do arrive, particularly in the evening, you do tend to be winding down and relaxing into the day, quite typically as the Portuguese do. The most productive time is the early hours up until about, I suppose, 10, 11 o'clock, and then things become a little bit difficult, shall I say, due to the heat. We did actually get the crack repaired in our windscreen. Now, it's been nigh on, or has been, I'm not 100% sure of the day. I tell you what, time just vanishes over here. Yeah, but you know, we have got the windscreen in our car replaced. It's been nigh on a week. I did touch on the fact that if you're coming here, you know, check all your insurance policies with vehicles, what it covers, what it doesn't. You know, get yourself reasonably well covered. That's my advice. Due to having that windscreen cracked, I've lost pretty much a week where I could venture, you know, to the coast. That's sad, you know, regrettable, but at least I was still mobile till I had the windscreen done. My insurance company, I feel, may put unnecessary roadblocks in getting my windscreen repaired, and indeed increased possibly the bureaucracy. But unfortunately, you do have to factor in the fact, I'm just sheltering under a tree here actually. Like I say, it's just getting to that point where I don't really want to be hit by the sun today. I'm feeling tired, didn't sleep that well. But anyway, getting back to what I'm saying is that things don't happen extremely fast here in Portugal. As a rule and a given, it's slightly slower, and that is part of the charm of the country. But when you're in a situation you want something done, you might feel that you know, things are possibly working or conspiring against you. We've experienced that firsthand, like I said, with this windscreen and getting it done. It's a week. And like I said, my insurance company didn't help that, but on top of that, you know, it is what it is, and you are where you are, and it's part of how things happen. I'm 100% sure other people have had better experiences, and I'm 100% sure, and I know I'm sure people have had a lot worse experiences. But you know, be pleasant, be, you know, courteous and polite, and obviously, you know, uh, you work within the system to get things done. But my car's back, I have a windscreen, and we're now planning our coastal excursions as well. So yeah, when I get back home from this hike, we should be doing that. But I do have to say, the wheels of uh, getting things done, commerce and things like that, are a little bit on the slower side than what anybody moving into this part of Portugal might be used to. What you're looking at there is a toilet system and loads of other building related paraphernalia, and you know, I wouldn't even want to poke around in there. The UK isn't the only country that has issues with fly tipping, and I found some mind-boggling stuff in the most blatant of places here, and it doesn't seem to cause that much of a stir or an outrage. It's almost kind of accepted here, or not accepted, but people would just like shrug their shoulders. I've kind of mentioned this to a few people now, and it's just a case of people shrug their shoulders and kind of, you know, move on type of thing. I do know that you know, it is an EU country, so this isn't an acceptable practice, but you know, you will find yourself experiencing what, you know, can only be described as just stuff, well, basically just driven somewhere in a car and thrown out. And I just have to show you this boulder. Look at it. It's like a massive square cube right in the middle of somebody's hedge line. I'm still intrigued by these boulders. I mean, we've got big boulders up on Dartmoor and Bodmin Moor, but these just seem to be boulders which people actually work around. It's crazy, but you know, you do kind of get acquainted and kind of fall in love with these boulders. Your eyes are drawn to them. I'm approaching what looks like another junction in this track, and I should probably take the left one because I'm, well, trying to stay true to the road that I do have a few miles down there. Yeah, it's all a case of guesswork. You can sometimes find these tracks on Google Maps, and then sometimes Google Maps doesn't have them represented, so there's no guarantee. But this track here is shaded by trees, which is an absolute blessing. And in the hollow of that field you can see somebody's growing a crop, and it's obviously where any moisture is funneled into that particular part of that opening there. These guys know their land and they know how it works, and like you say, it may seem like a lot of wasted ground there, but for them to plant either side of that, the obvious reason is it's obviously a drainage runoff, and it's a lot drier, so that centerpiece there is where any moisture does collect, I should hazard a guess. But anyway, I can actually see a water tower just poking through in the distance. Or I think it's a water tower. It's like a big, if you didn't know any better, a child's rocket. Is that a water tower? I don't know in the distance. I've no idea. But yes, I've got the town. Now I've come over the rise here, I can see the town. So that's comforting. And like I said, I'm trying to keep that within sight, so I don't have to struggle. And I can see another town miles away. I don't know if that's Castelo Branco there in the distance. I think it possibly is. But anyway, I'm going to crack on down here. I've just come along this hedge, and as you can see, there's a trackway going in here. There is a wire mesh rudimentary gate there, but you can see in between those trees there is actually the formation of an old ruin there, and this is just so typical of what I'm seeing, you know. And there's fruit trees, olive trees, and at one time this would have been worked and loved, and it was a staple to their daily existence. And that would have possibly been like a building to support agriculture here, and they would have possibly, you know, resided in that while they were working on this particular piece of land. There is the air of time gone by, and you know, people just don't, like modern people, don't want to work the land as their forefathers did, you know. Although having said that, there does seem to be a culture where the younger ones here in Portugal are more in tune and in keeping with growing things themselves and providing some of their produce. That's just down to the things I've talked about, where things aren't as cheap as you are actually led to believe over here. And on top of that, for the local indigenous population, you know, with low wages and that, they supplement their food requirements from the land, and so it is a bit of a necessity for the youth to have an understanding how to grow. So there is a bigger culture here for people to know and use the land. You won't see that, or you might just be able to make out some of it. It says vendor or vendee, I'm not quite sure, and there's a rudimentary telephone number which is wore off and is sun bleached. And this is the backside of that piece of ground I was showing you. So as you can see, it's a vineyard, and with the olive trees and fruit trees, but it is so neglected. It would take a lot of work to pull that back again. You know, and this is a typical scenario I'm finding out on these particular lanes and tracks. But that one there isn't an estate agent, that's a private individual. The problem you will have, or I've experienced as an individual, is that when you make contact with those numbers, the lack of Portuguese language and your ability to fully communicate does become an issue. If you could get somebody to translate for you, that would be a big step in the right direction. But ultimately, it's quite difficult to deal with individuals in those circumstances. And the reason I would suggest is because you're always cautious because of the horror stories that you've heard about transactions over here. And I'm not an expert, and I'm not I'm not giving any advice, but the only thing I would say is you do need to get proper legal counsel and make sure things are done correctly, because you do not want to find yourself in a position of regret. So yeah, always get things done properly, even if you feel you're switched on. Go and get things done correctly and with professional guidance and help. And in stark contrast, you can quite easily see this piece of ground is lovingly looked after and tended, and it has a building up there. I'm not sure if it's for domestic purposes or whether it's to support agricultural practices here, but this is well tended and looked after. And as I come up this track, it's been getting closer and closer, this tower, and it's beginning to loom over me. And as I come around these trees, you will see it. I've been getting glimpses of it along this track for quite a while now, and there it is. I believe they are water towers. I mean, you'll have to excuse my ignorance, but I believe I've seen similar things before in other countries, so I'm just edging my bet that it is actually something to do with like being a water tower. So I've walked along the track basically heading to this, and it looks like it is some sort of complex. You know, it's how can I put it this way, not looking like it's as well kept as what the white walled painting of the building suggests. Yeah, I definitely think it's something to do with water. The name on the top of the tower suggests that to me. Like I said, I'm possibly wrong, but like I said, there's a gate there that's off its hinges. Obviously it says don't enter, and I wouldn't even dream of it, and obviously I wouldn't even suggest anybody else investigate further than the track that runs alongside it. I mean, you have obviously no business being anywhere in or near those buildings. But yet again, another secure gate that's left wide open. Yeah, curious. Curious indeed. But I'm going to head back now. Like I said, I found this tower on the skyline that I've been looking to get to and wondering what it is. I shall endeavour to have a look when I get home at that name and look it up on the internet. Yet again, another gate that's obviously a locked one that's obviously not locked, but yeah, one more last look, and I'm going to head back down these lanes home before it gets too hot. This is quite typical. I'm not going to get too close, so you know, it's obviously a number, but it just says something along the lines of vendor, vendees. I'm not quite sure, and there's a phone number scrawled on a piece of wood cardboard, and it's stuck to the gate. And basically, it's a piece of land in there that is being sold, and it's adjoining the piece I just showed you there as I walked around the corner just a minute ago. That is pretty much typical of, you know, people selling property, you know, individually. But the thing is, it's the communication in arriving at a mutual deal. But I'm not an expert. I don't know nothing about it. All I will say is that I believe that you should get proper professional counsel if you're going to engage in, you know, purchasing by that method also. Like I said, I'm not well, I don't know nothing about it. I won't even say I'm not an expert. I know nothing about it, and all I will say is that you should get proper professional help, legal and you know, financial. Just get everything done professional, and through the proper official channels, and that way you know, you can kind of help safeguard yourself. You know, there's no point regretting something a little bit further down the line. And from what I've seen and what I'm experiencing at this particular shall we say looking to purchase land or property, you know, it's a little bit more of a minefield than back home. That may be because obviously I've been through the process back home several times and I understand it, and it's probably my ignorance on this system here, but yeah, from my personal look, it's different and perhaps just a little bit more you know, care needed So yeah, everything done professional and proper to try and avoid having regrets further down the line. There's a tray of bones here, just by my rudimentary look at what they are. It's sheep, and that would be, you know, a reasonably basic assumption, but yeah, something's taken it and eaten it, or come across a deceased sheep and decided to make a meal of it. I'm slightly disappointed I haven't seen much in the way of bigger wildlife, insects and birds in abundance, and lizards and geckos and things of that nature. But bigger wildlife, it's here reportedly, but I haven't seen it, and I really have been traipsing through, you know, vast tracts of countryside, and I've still to really see anything of the bigger mammals, you know, and I really am searching and looking. My eyes are scanning constantly, so I'm kind of a little bit disappointed there. Back home, you know, I could guarantee most trips out I would see some of our bigger mammals, you know, on most trips out. So they are here though, you know, that's not just me wishing to find a unicorn. They actually are here. So perhaps it is really most of them are nocturnal, you know, perhaps, you know, they want to avoid the sun, but I would have thought by now I would have bumped into some of them. Yeah, so today we're at the coast and we're at Peniche, and I'll just let you have a quick little look. Not much surf, so probably will just be a swim with the kids. Panning you around from the top of the beach and bringing you around. Like I said, not much surf really.